Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland manga review. This one's going to be for chapter 146, which is called The Decisive Battle at the Capital. And this is a very interesting chapter. It's a really good sort of twist or brutal part of the kind of plan that happens. And I like that we are getting this kind of demon focus here, that the nobles of the demon hierarchy are getting sort of character arcs in the middle of all of this, that it's not just they are the victims of the kind of characters we care about plans, but that they are actually getting character arcs, like the kind of Garen Bayon setup that we've had, and it being turned around here. And then like the Queen is still an interesting kind of topic of like clearly set up for maybe the next chapter to see what exactly she's about. And just in general, the importance kind of the nobles, of like if you're trying to save demons but you let all of the nobility be killed, you know, what have we actually accomplished here? So some interesting stuff here. And then the only other characters really involved here is a little bit of Norman's team as they kind of, you know, have the plan actually executed properly. So as we start off here, November 10th, 2047, the fated day has come, the Tafari, and we see the Queen here, like leading the ceremony. Of course, she's got the Vita plant and so on, and they present their offering to the One here. It's 3 vats which have obviously 3 humans in it, their food of course. Allow us now to present our very best harvest, please do accept it. Now we get a decent close-up, they don't like zoom in on the faces or anything like that, but it seems pretty much all but confirmed here. None of these 3 people are like Phil or any of the characters that I think anyone suspected might be sort of taken and used as a big sort of central plot point. These either are just what they're presenting as being their best harvest but maybe aren't actually, or they're just 3 random sort of high-grade kids from some other farm somewhere. Either way, this is what they're presenting as the offer. Then they perform the kind of Gupna ritual type thing by putting the Vita plant in, and everyone's celebrating as they're about to start the ritual. That's when the explosion comes off. So this is when this chapter catches up with the end of the last chapter, where we saw one bridge exploding. Then we get this big wide shot showing us that it wasn't just one explosion, it was multiple, like 10 plus explosions, destroying every bridge, every passage basically into the capital city here. Every bridge explodes, and we see that the result of this is chaos within the kind of demon civilians. They're the ones who suffer the most from this. And I like this. This is what they've done really well over the last couple of chapters, of just setting up this idea that the enemies are the nobility, the higher ups, sort of the way the world is structured and how humans are incorporated into that. The enemies aren't just the normal, the standard citizen that is a demon. They're just trying to go about their lives, and it just happens that their food source is humans. So if they could solve that by using Mujika's blood, then, you know, there's hope for demons and humans potentially getting on into the future. But there's a lot still that has to happen before we get to that point. But it goes to show that this is still this sort of tragedy that's happening here. This is Norman leading a genocide, basically, which is what's happening here. He and his group want to eliminate all demons. So that's what they're doing here. They don't mind who they kill in all of this. They're just trying to get what they want. So in the chaos, this allows Norman and his team to sneak in. We see a little bit of action of them taking out demons along the way. They've infiltrated the west side and taken down the lookouts. Vincent then leads the entrance for Lord Garen. So he arrives along with his clan. So the Honorable Garen clan is here. And that's when they close all of the gates. So this is when Vincent explains basically how the plan is working, where the forces of the demons are compared to what they have. So the Royal Capital's troop number is around 5,000, but the boss reduced it to 1,000 of them in advance. And this was, of course, by setting up the idea that the demons would have to send out an army to stop what was happening with the factories constantly being destroyed. So a large part of the demon army is actually out already trying to deal with that stuff, and they weren't expecting an attack at the capital. So there's only 1,000 troops left in the capital. 700 of them are outside the castle and 300 inside the castle. The 700 outside the castle have their hands full dealing with the mayhem and masses as well as the bridge explosions. Additionally, all of the castle gates have been closed. The forces outside and inside have been cut off from one another. All of the bridges leading out have been dealt with. They are now helplessly isolated from the outside. The 300 inner castle troops will be directed towards Garen's forces of about 50. And this is when the team is going to make their move. So Norman and crew, that's when they'll make their move. Because of course this was the plan that we know about. Norman wants Garen's forces to fight the majority of the Royal Capital's forces, and they'll take advantage from what's left, basically. So that's the double crossing that's planned in all of this. But also, Garen was planning to double cross Norman. So the setup is, I suppose, who will double cross who comes out on top in all of this. Because it seems like Garen's forces, because of how sort of bestial they are like stronger than a typical demon. So 50 versus 300 seems like crazy odds, but it seems like they're actually quite happy with this. So this is when Norman basically just leaves Garen and says, now take revenge to your heart's content. And he just thanks him. What a splendid performance, William Minerva. And then obviously we know that Garen obviously is aware that he's not actually William Minerva. So that's some of the sort of politics type stuff going on. Then we cut back into the kind of nobility with the queen and so on, all the different noble families. They hear the commotion that's going on, but because they're right in the middle of everything, they don't know exactly what's going on. So they open the doors to check what's going on, and all of a sudden, this is when the raiders walk through, including Lord Garen. And this is when it's the big confrontation we've sort of been waiting for when it comes to the demon side of things. Is Garen, the like abandoned former noble who they just left out to become wild, and they threw him out of the nobility, and he wants revenge for that. He's become a monster while they've remained the nobility. He's here to take his revenge, and the queen has no real reaction. Yvertz, I think his name is, as well as Numa, don't have much of a reaction. But Pupo and Bayon especially are kind of shocked, surprised to see him. Because the setup that we have here is that Bayon actually used to consider the Garen clan to be one of the best that the demons had. They were a clan that he calls them beautiful specifically, that they were unselfish and they actually cared about the people and making things better. So he was very sympathetic towards what happened to them. And now he's seeing the revenge come back upon him. And Pupo, of course, is also surprised. Is like, Father, Mother, please step back. It's dangerous here. But then suddenly, his mother just stabs him with a knife right in the eye, killing him instantly. And everyone is shocked by this. Like, why would his mother kill him? Like, Lord Pupo is dead right now. Numa goes to attack him, but then this is when Garen reveals, do you think she's his family? Appearance, voice, smell, and the mask. Your family has been eaten and robbed. They've successfully taken their forms. It's not just Pupo's father. Everybody here is my subordinate. And this is when the nobles' families, who are just kind of waiting outside, away from the actual grouping of nobles, they're all now revealed to be Garen's forces having eaten all of the nobles' families and taken their form here for a surprise attack to take out the nobles like this. So this is pretty crazy. Like it was easy to underestimate Garen, given that like he was, as part of Norman's plan, just meant to be the opposing army that got wiped out as they mutually destroyed each other. But here's, I think, Garen almost doing much more than you expected him to do, and seemingly getting the upper hand against the nobles in all of this. The queen, again, remains sort of stone-faced in all of this, but here's the big moment here. Garen, who seems to be the most beast-like of all of the demons present here, takes Pupo's head and eats it. So he basically eats Pupo's brain, effectively. And then this is when we see him. He speaks as he's morphing. He's changing form here. Since falling to the wild 700 years ago, you don't know just how much my clan has waited for this day. I can never forget it. Our very being was stolen. We were a disgrace, suffering. And yeah, this is when we get the last page here, as he morphs and it's revealed that he's become much more like a typical demon. He's kind of thinner, he's not as bulky. The big thing with him, though, is that he seems to have got the long hair back. The hair that sort of Bayon seems to remember him by, why he sort of considers that clan to have been beautiful. The hair is back, he takes his mask off, revealing he still has all the crazy eyes, like, all grouped together, in that, like, it's just random across his face, rather than most demons having their, like, laid out pretty much in a straight line and stuff like that. He takes that mask off and says, "All of you are next, you're going to satiate our rage thoroughly." But then the queen just replies, "How laughable." So, demon versus demon conflict is what we're getting here right at the end. Big battle is about to happen here. Garen, who I assume the idea is that he's going to be more powerful because he's effectively ingested the cursed blood effectively here. So he has gained the ability to not need to eat humans anymore because he has that blood. Because it was revealed earlier on that the nobles all had that blood. They were aware of that, but kept it from the population, because that was the main way to keep their power, was by them controlling the food supply and them controlling who was and was not able to basically go past the food supply. So he and I suppose his whole clan, having eaten the families of the nobles, I suppose effectively all are like that now. So their revenge, like, they've already accomplished a lot of what they want to do, but we have to wait and see what happens here. The setup would suggest, I think, probably that the queen is going to be revealed here to just be insanely powerful if she is a fighter. Because Luvis is related to her, if I remember correctly, isn't she? I may be completely misremembering that in all of this, but I think that is the situation, that there's some sort of a connection between Luvis and her. So Luvis was one of the more powerful demons that we've ever seen. So if she's the queen in her prime, it would make sense that the reason she's so, like, unmoved by all of this is that she knows she can take over the situation at any point. Not to mention we still have a few of the other nobles left. Like, Bayon was powerful. This is the other Bayon. How is he going to be in a fight? Similarly, the Lord Noose, or whatever his name is, he's there, and you know there's still a threat. But I suppose the setup here is: are they going for Garen is now super powerful, or the queen is now going to be the one who really kind of takes over the situation? So, yeah, her name, of course, is Legra Valima. So, kind of long name, but you know, we still don't really know much about her apart from she's the queen, she's important, but nothing specifically character-wise. So, it could be very interesting next time out to see just what happens. And in the middle of this chaos, all of the nobles battling here, this like 5-6 way battle that's probably going to be going on here, 6 versus however many Garen's brought in. I wonder, are we going to see Norman's strike force come in now or wait, and what's going to happen? Because we know that there's some sort of a setup of some sort of a weapon or plan that like Norman and Vincent were talking about, and it might involve those experiments Vincent was doing about something that seemingly immediately kills demons, or like a poison of some sort. But it seems like we've gone past that. If they were going to go ahead with a poisoning, the explosion almost has ruined the idea of getting that across. So maybe it is just like a substance that if they spray it on them or something like that, they immediately kill them, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And then still in the middle of all of this, we still ultimately, the big thing we really want to know, what was the reward that Emma promised the one? We're still waiting to find out about that, because they're on their way. They're going to arrive a little bit sooner, but it seems like they're late at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if we cut to next chapter and like it is like Emma and Ray and the others that went with them like arriving just as these explosions go off, and we have to wait and see how they get in and what happens, because they're effectively going to be, for most of this fight, fighting almost like on the side of the demons in this and against like Norman, because they're going to want to sort of undo parts of Norman's plans. So they might be sort of unlocking the kind of gates and stuff like that were locked here to separate the inside and outside forces. But they're also going to have to be stealthy in all of this as well. So how exactly this plays out when everyone converges on this place is going to be very interesting because, of course, Gilda, Dawn, Sanju, Mujika still have to arrive as well. And, like, how are they going to arrive in play? Because I think we're ultimately expecting some sort of a mass confrontation between the big characters. So, Norman, Emma, Ray, Sanju, Mujika, the Queen probably, maybe Bayon survives all of this, Garen's in there, and maybe the One appears at that point. So, like, we're waiting for all of those main characters from almost like every side of the story to kind of almost be in the same room to see where we stand with all of this. And then we're, of course, just waiting to see what on earth the One actually does when everything goes down. So, yeah, interesting chapter. It's probably not the best chapter we've ever seen, but the twist of him having killed the nobles' families already was so surprising to me and so brutal on his side of things that you had some sense for, like, oh, Bayon actually is kind of sympathetic in a way to Garen, but how much sympathy, how much does that mean when he just said it, like, from his position of nobility and he potentially didn't do anything to help Garen? It's just words at that point, and now he's seeing the effects of that revenge, and it's hurt him, and you can see on the final page, the top panel, it's Garen holding his, Bayon holding his wife's mask, and he's shaking. That's how angry, upset he is about this. So I think we're going to see some big stuff. I think Garen versus Bayon is going to be a fight that we get, and then maybe the Queen, like Valima, will just stand off in the background, and, you know, probably, I'm assuming they might have her, like, take out a large part of Garen's rest of his forces, and it'll be this shock defeat for Garen or something like that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this one. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.